Hey, what's up again? I'm James Cooper, and this is Relative Motion, the channel all about showing you the most interesting places on Earth and the best means for you to get there. In this season, we're looking at the best pop-up tent campers under 2,000 pounds. And in episode 2, we're looking at the Lees-ure Lite. And if you're not really looking for the best bargain, but you are looking for the best overall trailer, and you want to be able to tow it with a motorcycle, this is going to be a great option. So, let's get into the overview of this trailer.
It's hard for me to tell you how I feel. I'm afraid to show you what's underneath, 'cause I don't wanna let you down. Got a lot of demons up in my brain. Got a lot of bad thoughts giving me pain.
Now, if you're following along in this season, I'm going to try not to be too repetitive in this episode, since this is really similar to the trailer before this, the Mini-Mate. So this trailer is ideally made for 2 or 3 wheeled vehicles traveling on roads. Because of its empty weight, it's more geared to being the best overall motorcycle trailer. And the reason this and the Mini-Mate are the best motorcycle trailers is, for all intents and purposes, they're about the same weight. And if you're actually towing behind a motorcycle, the lighter that load is in general, the better. Especially since you're still trying to enjoy the ride and fun of riding on a motorcycle. This trailer would also excel with 3-wheeled type vehicles, like a Spider or a trike motorcycle. However, the big difference between the Mini-Mate and the Lees-ure Lite is that the Lees-ure Lite can carry over twice the weight in cargo, somewhere around 400 pounds. However, if you're adding this much weight on top of the trailer, it's going to put you well above 400 pounds, which is generally speaking the maximum any motorcycle or 3-wheeled vehicle can tow. So for this situation, if you have a really small car and you're traveling, but you have a ton of gear, for whatever reason, the Lees-ure Lite would be a great option to tow behind a small car if you do have a ton of gear. Or like I said earlier, if you're just looking for a great trailer for a 2 or 3-wheeled vehicle. The uses this kind of trailer would excel at is if you do want to travel around the country on a motorcycle or trike, and the classic example would be checking out all the national parks. If you had the proper gear, this could be a good option for doing that, because there aren't a lot of options when it comes to motorcycle trailers. The other use for this is if you're just making a long range trip across the country or wherever. I think this is the best option if you're going to try and not stay in a hotel, because with just a little gear, like I mentioned in the last video, you can live out of this quite easily. And if you do stop at truck stops on your journey, this is a great place to take a shower, which is definitely the biggest amenity this is lacking. The other interesting thing worth noting about this, when you are parking overnight with this thing, because it folds backwards, which we haven't gotten into yet, it does only make it longer, not wider.
Can you make that straighter? That job looks hard. You should put your mouth on that.
Which is a lot easier to get into parking spots, especially if you park it like a typical trailer and take up 2. Or use a longer trailer parking spot. You feel a little more justified, even though you have a very small rig. And the last use for this trailer, you can use this trailer for short trips wherever, especially if it's just overnight. Because of this trailer's simplicity, an overnight trip definitely falls more into this trailer's capabilities. Now, the reason I say this is the best overall motorcycle trailer is since the Lees-ure Lite and the Mini-Mate are really the only 2 trailers I would use on a 2-wheeled motorcycle. I would say the Lees-ure Lite has a lot more features. One of the biggest being it has twice the living space. This is due to the fact when it's open, there's a permanent standing area, and because of this, that almost doubles the space. The bed is almost identical. It's 2 inches less wide, but 3 inches longer. So I suppose the Lees-ure Lite would be a little more unfriendly to an American stature. Now this does have internal storage, which is a little harder to access compared to the trailer before this. However, though, I'd say the rails and storage on top is a little more accommodating. And not to sound like a broken record, but this can carry a lot more weight and cargo too. Another feature worth noting on this, which I don't think is the biggest deal, and I'll explain why, is while I was unable to find pretty much any information on ground clearance on these trailers, this one does appear to be one of the tallest. And these really short trailers can lend themselves well to off-roading with a trailer, which generally is very hard to do. So if you are potentially looking for a small trailer to tow behind, a 4-wheeler, a side-by-side, an ATV, or something like that, this definitely is one to check out, especially because I think it would be pretty easy to lift too. So the reason I don't think this feature is the biggest deal is if you are camping off in the bush, off of something like an ATV or a side-by-side or a 4-wheeler, I would suggest just getting a nice tent, especially like some of these, Coleman, like you obviously come to expect from this list, makes some great tents, and I think a tent like that is a much better option in that situation, because that tent can be used anywhere, because that is the biggest disadvantage of a tent trailer, is it is bound to the trailer, and obviously it's a lot more expensive because of that. So not to go off on too much of a tangent, but if you're not going to use the pop-up tent trailer on roads or directly off of roads or in campgrounds, truck stops, or other situations like that, I think the tent is a lot better of an option sometimes, for the reasons I already stated. Anywho, the last awesome feature about this trailer, and maybe the best one in general, is it's probably the quickest tent trailer to set up, because of the fact you open it and it's pretty much already set up. I mean, look at this thing. The minute you unfold it, it's pretty much already set up. So of course that's definitely very convenient. So other than the toilet, stove, and carbon monoxide detector that I mentioned in the last video and is linked in the description below, the really absolutely essential item I would get for this is some sort of folding table or desk that you could use sitting on the bed, because this is the only trailer on this list that this was somehow an oversight and is not included, and is definitely essential to using this trailer. It makes it so much more practical, especially since you have the room for it in this one. So I really hope you enjoyed this episode, and like I said, I hope it wasn't too repetitive from the last one. And if you'd like to purchase any of the items on Amazon I talked about in this video, it would be a huge help if you can use the links in the description, because at no cost to you, those purchases help support this channel. And in the next episode, we're going to look at the big daddy of motorcycle trailers, the Timeout Deluxe, which definitely pushes the maximum of what a motorcycle or trike can pull. So if you're not worried about blowing out your transmission, check back for that one. And until next time, I'm James Potti, and you've been watching Relative Motion.
I don't wanna let you down.